we'll jump right in, I guess. Welcome back to another episode of the Harmony Outdoors podcast. Today I have myself and Mr. Brett Barnes on. He's back with us again today. He's going to be a big part of these, just as I am. Brett, how you doing today, bud?
I'm doing good, Brandon. How you doing, sir?
I'm good. Better than I deserve, anyways. So what you had going on?
I hate Horton couldn't join us today, but he's got some family helping, I think, that he's got to get done today. So you'll see me and Brandon on here probably mostly. Horton will jump in at sometimes, and we may have a few guests come on here and there.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to some of the guest stuff we got lined up.
Yeah.
Pretty interesting characters. So
yeah. Characters is the correct word for that, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. What you been up to the last couple of days? What you been working on?
Just really, hunting episodes, and this is basically kind of what this podcast will be about is reflection. So this time of year, throughout the summer and things like that, myself and Brandon, we, are editing our hunts from past season. And we have a YouTube channel that we post these to as well. So it brings back a lot of not just memories and storytelling time that we do reflecting on, last year's success, but, it brings a lot of talking points of, hey, this is what I learned. These are some things that I'm definitely going to implement this year. And there's some things that I would like to implement throughout the year that I didn't try last year, or something like that. But I feel like we both feel very accomplished at what I know myself I do. These guys right here behind me, this one, Mr. Tyson, and this one I call the Big Seven. Y'all can't see them, but I'll throw some pictures up. Changed my whole perspective on deer hunting, and I really have to contribute a lot of this to some of the other podcasts out there that me and Brandon both listen to, and man, getting people's mindset in this community that are just not. I guess really the only way I know how to explain it is that are just not selfish hunters. They really enjoy hearing and seeing success stories from others and helping others out that may have just not had that guidance. I know for me, I didn't have anybody growing up, so everything I learned was just kicking boots around the woods,
Yeah. Walking in circles,
and
really.
Just, yes, it felt like it. Deer hunting, yes, and even turkey hunting, for the first, we discussed that on the introduction podcast. The first few years, you were, doing all you knew to do, and I was just following your lead because I knew you had some success. But I think we grew together as turkey hunters, and then one day Brandon just said, "Look, bud, go make mistakes. Go do it by yourself and make those mistakes." And so I was like, well, shit, he don't want to hunt with me no more. Yeah, but it wasn't that. It was a great opportunity for me to go and learn, and I did, and it changed both of our outlooks on turkey hunting. I mean, we both grew in that time. So yeah, but I'm excited about
not hunting with you was the furthest thing from the truth. But my side of it was you started asking questions that I couldn't answer anymore. Why is he doing this? Why is he doing that?
I am the question asker.
Yeah,
I ask the questions that most people just don't ask.
Right.
So,
right. But yeah, you're 100% right. It got to the point to where I knew that the best thing that you could do was just to go and put yourself in, those scenarios to where you're having to make your own decisions. You're having to make your own judgment calls. Do I move now? Do I wait? But
yeah,
they're very quickly, just as turkey hunting does, it humbled you pretty quick. and but it give you the opportunity to put yourself in those scenarios to make mistakes, because that's
Right.
one of the best ways to learn is by making mistakes, because when you do make those hard lessons learned, then they stick with you. You won't make those again. And which, very shortly after that, there was phone calls. Hey, I learned this, I did this, I messed up here. And those things
Yeah.
started opening my eyes to where, I started kind of rethinking some of my tactics. And you said it the best when you said we grew together. So
Yeah. And
definitely,
I think as far as the reflection of this past deer season, and we're going to try to stay on topic with, going into deer season, because that's where everybody's mindset is. That's where our mindset is. So, as we go through these podcasts, that's where we'll be. We'll be in the now, and, dropping consistently, on a weekly basis. So that is the plan, as long as nothing drastically changes here. So,
yeah,
but I think that is the way to describe this past deer season, because I know there were probably some times that I asked you some questions that you were just like, Brett, I don't know,
mm-hmm.
figure it out, and so
Yeah.
I did. There was a lot of things that I wanted to figure out, and a lot of times, even when I'm just asking the question, it's just kind of a thought process I do out loud. And I don't try to overanalyze hunting, but man, there's so much that I just didn't know to take into consideration. Turkey and deer, but on topic, deer hunting. I mean, dude, just kicking through the woods and finding a little bit of sign here and there and sitting on it was all I knew to do.
Right.
Obviously fell into what I call the scent scam. And we got a podcast on that as well. But last year, dude, I mean, broke what traditionally was all the rules, And I'll just be honest with you, it was all about terrain and thermals for me. And when those two things made sense to me, and historical data was huge.
Right.
And just being patient and relying on that time frame to unfold, I guess, is the best way I know how to put it.
That's right.
I understood more when those happen, and especially after number 2. I mean, I killed 2 mature bucks within a week apart in North Alabama. That was mind blowing to me, and the setup was just perfect. But I understood why, and so that was a big thing for me. So the takeaway from deer season last year to the things that I know. And you can elaborate on this yourself, but the things I know that you took into consideration upon your setups and why you were hunting where you were hunting. But I know we were doing mock scrapes, things like that, running cameras, just trying to collect summer inventory, things like that throughout the year. And guys, if y'all want to know any more about this type of stuff that we talk about, we're going to have an email set up for y'all to ask questions. We want y'all to get involved with these conversations.
Yes.
Guests, speakers, all kinds of stuff. Anybody's welcome on the podcast. So, but back to topic, we were running cameras all through the summer, mock scrapes, things like that. And I remember we were out there one day and it started pouring down rain. But I remember telling you, I was like, Brandon, I'm going to do something that most people just don't do. Everybody, and this is, I think, the public land mindset. And it, when I told you this, we were on our hunting club, which it kind of can or can't relate there, but it somewhat can. But I told you, I said, look, everybody goes deep. Everybody's pressing in deep, deep, deep. I'm going to try to be where the hunters are not.
Right.
That was kind of my mindset going into the season. I want to be where the hunters are not. So do you see many people hunting 50 yards off the road, can see your truck? I mean, I killed 2 mature bucks and a very 1.5-inch spurred mature gobbler in North Alabama, and able to still see my truck.
Yeah.
And that was crazy, dude. Yeah. But obviously I know there was more things that went into it than just hunt by the road. But being where everybody else is not was a mindset. And so that was a mindset I went into the season with. And then as far as implementing terrain and thermals, it changed everything. But I'm going to let you talk because I've been yapping. So shoot away, Mr. Masters.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what it's all about is, getting to where we can relay our mindset because, and I'm just going to go ahead and give credit where credit's due. A big part of our success comes from another podcast, by the name of the Southern Outdoorsman. Obviously, if you don't know, we are from Alabama, and those two gentlemen are also from Alabama. I've met one of them personally at the turkey convention, and I'm gonna tell you something. It kind of blew my mind when, I said, hey, listen to your podcast, and the guy literally pulled up the e-brake, and we sat and had a conversation for many minutes there. And he was just
which
nice
is hard to do in Nashville.
Yes, it's so busy, so busy. But
yeah.
Again, this is what we're trying to do here is may seem a lot similar to what they do, but there's so many different avenues that we do that are slightly different, and that's what we want to bring overall to the podcast. But just to stay on topic, again, the things that we learned, there was a lot of learning that came from, their podcast and the guests that they bring. And for me, it was, I can't take their word for it. I've got to go, test it out. I've got to go try to apply it. And the biggest thing for me was, looking for deer sign in the form of bedding. And I'll never forget the day that me and you on the club leading up to, the harvest of the Big 7, we had this little saddle, went up to the top of the saddle, and I've always thought that, deer bedding is just in the nastiest, thickest, like rabbit hole briar patch kind of thing that you could ever find.
Right.
And, learning about the thermals and the way that deer use the thermals, we went up to the top of this saddle and we made a little pass down about a third of the way from the top of the what they call the military crest, from the top downward. And I found the first, like, I've always seen deer bedding, but I found the first active bed that was, it was nearly still steaming, had hair in it and all that stuff. And it was exactly where, the guest and those guys on that podcast had kind of talked about that it would be. And so, trailing some of the sign back, we found a lot of ruts, we found a lot of scrapes up in that area. And very shortly after that, we hung a camera on it, which we had, a couple of different doe family groups that was using that area. We had a couple of early season velvet bucks that came in. One was what we would consider the shooter on that club. And, one thing led to another. And just as we're learning a lot about, different patterns, summer patterns going into fall patterns, those two bucks disappeared. And, the Big 7 that he killed that you killed was never really even seen until I
don't think he was living on the property at all.
That's right, which is going to kind of bridge us over to the next point, which is historical data. Right. So, I want to kind of put this in. It's just something personal that I know about Brett, that I find it pretty comical, not as a, I'm making fun of you kind of thing, but he was always,
go ahead and make fun of me.
He was always the, I don't really, deer hunting doesn't get me pumped up and amped up like killing a turkey does, but, I personally know that you had never really gotten too many opportunities until this year. And please, if you haven't checked out the video on YouTube, go check them out, because you can see his
You're going to see me flat, shook
up.
I'm talking about falling out of a tree, shook up. I said, I got to get out of this tree before I fall the hell out.
Yeah. So, and he called me and told me those exact words, and all I could do was just try to slow him down so that he didn't make a mistake, coming down the tree.
Yeah.
Because I knew exactly how shook you were. But it was a really cool experience for me because my son was there. And because typically we hunt in public land that's, a pretty good ways away from the house for the most part. He's never got to experience, getting to see just a brute of a deer. And that's exactly what this guy was. And, so he was there. We finished our hunt, and 9:30, 10 o'clock, we packed up to come over and help Brett with some camera work. And he got to physically hold it, and, all he could do to pick his head up. But it was a really cool experience for everyone. So,
yeah, deer was over 200 pounds easy. And I mean, in Alabama, deer usually don't grow to be that age.
Right.
Not in the areas that we hunt anyway.
Right.
A lot of dog hunting and stuff goes on around us, and a lot of just if it's brown, it's down type mentality. So,
yeah,
I think this deer, Big 7, which is right here, this guy, I think from my experience, I know he's at least 5.5, but I think he could even possibly be 6. Just a super tank of a deer. And it, you watch Lil Holden walk up to that deer in the video, and he's like, wow. He says, huge. He does his Donald Trump, huge.
Yeah.
But, and Tyson, he was a deer, short little backstory on him. He was a deer that we found in early September off of a mock scrape.
Yep.
Collecting inventory over next to a little area, I guess, what would you say? Probably maybe an acre of hardwoods in the middle of 600 acres of pine.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the thing is our adjacent property had a good hardwood ridge that I believe that he resided on or in. But we got some nighttime pictures of him and stuff. And, I personally have never killed mature deer like these. Never was taught really how to hunt these guys correctly. And all the people I grew up with did not want to help.
Right.
For
Very
the most
selfish.
part. They wanted to keep these things to themselves, and their daddies taught them and things like that. And so that's not something that, I want to give back. If I can learn something, help somebody, that's what I want to do. And that's kind of our mentality with our call business.
Yeah.
We want to help hunters become better and more educated hunters as we grow ourselves. Back to the topic, Tyson, we saw him in early September. And obviously he was a targeted buck for bow season going straight in. But I told my wife, I showed her the video. I said, I'll never kill a buck like that. I was like, it just ain't going to happen, And so just trying to play a little reverse psychology before the season pops in on me. But, she's like, yeah, you will. Just keep at it, just being a good cheerleader that she is. But, man, the Big 7 was enough for me. Like it just made my entire deer career. When that moment happened, again, the video will show you, it was pretty intense, hunting in the pine thickets and him coming and going. And I put that the grunt call that we make, I put it to work, and it worked on both these deer really well. And there's proof in that in the video as well. So, but when Tyson came through, he was on top of me very quickly, came to calling, responded to the calling pretty well. But I think he was actually on a doe, or at least trailing one, because when he came in, he had his nose to the ground, stuff like that. But I was looking at if I'm looking at him, it would be his left side. Yeah. His left side. And I mean, he just looked so tall and so wide from that side. And his right side, looking at him, I think it's his G2, isn't it?
G3.
This broke off.
Yep.
Is it his G3? Yeah. Yeah, his G3. This broke off, and you can see in the beginning of the video, I show footage of Tyson on trail camera, and you can see before any of that stuff was broke off. But anyway, it happened fast. I knew he was a shooter buck. And I told Brandon, I think he's a really good 8-point. And in my mind, I was thinking this could possibly be Tyson. And so once we got down there, we saw his ear and all the, characteristics that we knew that Tyson had just from, past video and photos and stuff. But
and the crazy thing, the crazy
he
thing for
didn't
me,
like he didn't like excite me like the Big Seven did because it happened so fast. But he was also, I mean, I think he's probably 4.5. So he was not just the tank of a deer, but he was still a really, really nice deer
oh yeah,
for
yeah,
where we hunt. So
yeah, yeah. The crazy thing for me was that we got the pictures, and again, we're trying to bridge this back to historical data. We've only been deer hunting this property on our personal hunt club for 2 years, and the historical data that we had early season in the fall pattern on one side of the club was consistent for 2 years. I mean, the very first year we started running cameras down there, we had three of this class mature bucks in daylight.
yeah,
Just a week or so out from bow season. 2 years ago, which would have been 22-23 deer season. And so the spot of the little hardwoods he was talking about just a second ago is not too far down from that spot. And again, 2 years straight, one was just in the middle of Greenfield, and then this past year again we had made the mock scrape, but they're coming down from that neighboring property, which has a really good a saddle with a topography place over there where there's our land is flat, and then it kind of runs up to that, which is where that saddle is. But anyhow, they came down 2 years in a row, and then leading up to the place where he actually killed it at, we have 2 years worth of history there with mature bucks coming down from that saddle. And then you can also backdate to your propane episode, which is really in the same area. But
yeah,
where I started at was this: the craziest thing to me was that we had got those deer so early this past year with Tyson, and he had a running buddy too. They were nearly identical, and they just vanished after the velvet came off. The testosterone goes up, their pattern changed, and they just vanished for 2 months.
yeah.
And then
His buddy had some dagger brow tines on him.
yes, yeah, big brow tines, and you can see him. You can see him in one of the trail camera videos that we got. But another gentleman in our club had actually seen him at one time, and as he is a targeted buck, he would have killed him, but he couldn't have, didn't really have enough time or opportunity to get a shot. But, for them to be there consistently in the same place at the same time, 2 different years in 2 different places that way was kind of mind blowing to me. So, going back to just historical data sometimes will be your best friend, so the deer
Right.
are not there. I'm trying to remember how I need to say this. The land doesn't make the deer's not there because of the land, but the land is because of the way that it's laid out that way. It's why the deer are there. They're using those thermals and the way that the topography sets up for a specific reason. And so that's where they go to make their sign. That's where they go to do their inventory. And that's something that's really important that we've learned, this year. So
Yeah. Yep. There's a lot of things that I know that we're going to be taking into this year. A lot more things that we want to talk about in later episodes. Whether that's, the thermals and topography and the mindset there, buck bedding patterns, different times of the year, what you're really trying to pattern and what you're, really trying to look for and things like that. So, but, those are, in my opinion, episodes alone that we could talk about, and we'll probably do an episode like per buck that we killed last year and talk about those. But all of these things that we're going to be talking about are actual hunts that are on our YouTube channel. So going over there, we expand on those stories and some of the things that we learned. But I think we can kind of bring some things more full circle, now that we've seen more and had more success with it. So
yeah. Well, let's bridge that into this was the first year that we got to go travel out of state and do some deer hunting. We went to no, I'm sorry, not Kentucky. We went to Missouri this year. Tell us about some of what happened on the Missouri trip.
Missouri was tough for me. I went into it with the same mindset like I talked about earlier. Was finding the sign, was seeing deer run and jump across the road everywhere when I was in the truck. And I actually say that I think briefly in the video, the Missouri video on YouTube. But just could not see them in sitting in the stand. I was in very highly used bedding areas, and even buck bedding areas from all the sign that was inside the bedding areas, and actually huge bed I found with just, rubs. He just tearing trees up while he's laying there type thing,
Mm-hmm.
But it was pretty frustrating for me. And, I know Jaden didn't have as much success, seeing deer. And you and Horton were kind of hogging all the deer over there. So,
yeah.
But that was, that was a fun experience and a good learning. And just because you have a mindset and there's things that you do understand and know, doesn't mean you're going to go be successful everywhere you go. So,
right. I think
historical data is on that place is good to know what we know now.
Yep.
Because we'll know kind of where to start when we go back. But this year, we're actually going to go to Kentucky in September for a velvet hunt. And we're going to go back to a place that actually Brandon and Horton has already been to. I think it was 2 years ago, was it?
It may have been 3 years ago.
Yeah, 3 years ago.
Yeah, it was the same year we kicked off on Harmony. So, and we knew that year it was the first episode I reckon that we ever built, and it's long and most of it's boring, but there's a lot of comical. Y'all understand our personality a little bit better, but we knew that we were going up there a week later than what kind of everybody had always suggested. And keep in mind, this is the first time I personally have ever done anything outside of Alabama. And like usual, it humbled us. We went up there and hunted pretty hard for 2-3 days. I mean, there was a daggum tornado that come over. Second morning, we were sitting in winds 35, 40 miles an hour. And again, big storm came through that night, and it got pretty close to us, actually, I want to say it was within 8 or 10 miles from where we were staying that night. But, we tried to adapt and understood that most of the sign and stuff that we were seeing was not as far off of the road as what we had expected.
Hey guys, hope you're enjoying the podcast. If so, give us a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. Subscribing to our YouTube channel ensures that you never miss out on the latest content dropping. Also, head over to the website and sign up for our email and be the first to know about special offers, hunting tips, and new product releases. Now let's get back to the show.
But like I said, getting back to where we just left off, we had to adapt to just learn how to hunt a different property in a different way. So, we should have been up there a week and a half or 2 weeks earlier. So we were trying to hunt the post rut with just, trying to hit the food sources real hard and bedding, because those bucks should have been, kind of in the recovery stage at that point. But, it was a struggle bus the whole time. So,
yeah,
looking forward to going up there and hopefully getting some redemption this year.
Yeah, and we went to this particular place this past turkey season. So, seen a lot of deer, during turkey season too. So just, knowing kind of the habitat and areas that we saw them in, things like that. That's kind of be my start point anyway. So, yeah. But we're hoping to go up there and at least see some deer.
Yeah, I think it'll be a different story this year. But just as far as reflection, we had a lot of firsts this year. My son killed his first deer, which was just a doe. But I mean, that's a big milestone. And not only did he kill his first deer this year, but he done it with a crossbow during bow season. So many kids don't get an opportunity to kill their first one with anything other than a high-powered rifle. So that was really special. Brett was there to be a part of that, so that made it even more special. And then, Brett obviously he had the 2 that he killed, and then I got pretty lucky in Missouri when we went this year, because it just boils down to, don't overlook the simple things. we went down the stretch of this road, and every time we went down the road in a vehicle, I mean, we were seeing 6, 8 deer that were within 50 yards of the road every single time we went down, that stretch. So you'll see in the video, I think I was actually 52 yards is what I ranged when I shot the buck that I shot. But more importantly, and the things that I didn't get a chance to put in the video because there's either not enough footage to support it, but when we build episodes, you can't go down too many rabbit holes because you just won't retain people's.
Yep. Unfortunately, people just their attention span is
yeah,
teeny tiny.
Is very small. So, but in the same afternoon, a matter of fact, the first deer I seen was a very large, I would say mid 130s, probably 140s class buck, and tying that into the grunt call, I'd actually got our grunt call out, and I didn't even know that the second deer was there. But I grunted at the first one, and he stopped and he postured, kind of understood that I was doing what I was doing. And then all of a sudden there's another deer that starts coming off the hill 40, 50 yards behind him. And, the bigger buck didn't like what he heard, so he ends up blowing and running off. So you can see all that in the video. And, the smaller buck, which is I'm still extremely proud of, that's the first buck I ever shot with a bow on public land at a place that we had never been before. He hung out in the bottom and it didn't faze him. The whole myth of when a deer blows, it clears out everything within a 3-mile radius. I promise you, I've got video proof that states otherwise.
Yeah.
I end up shooting the buck, and he runs off there and does his thing, and then 30 or 45 minutes later, right before dark, there ended up being a third buck that came up to within 60 yards. That was, I think he was 60 yards. That was equivalent to the first one, and I know that it's two different bucks because one of them had really white horns, and the last one had super dark chocolate horns. So 3 mature bucks within a 70-yard stretch in the same evening, and all of that boils down to we just simply didn't overlook the fact that we were seeing deer on the road. And after 3 days, 2-3 days of just walking, a mile and a half deep, trying to get deep, find the sign, I was like, heck, we're seeing deer right here on the side of the road, so I'm going to hunt it, and
right,
and it worked out. So,
yeah, I think that's a huge tip. Whether people think it is or not, don't overlook the small stuff.
Right.
Be where the other hunters aren't, and I promise you, if your mindset is still thinking, well, I'm just going to go deeper than everybody, I promise you, there's some boys out there that'll flat walk.
Yeah.
Like mountain goats.
Yeah.
So when you think you're alone and deep, you're probably not. So you're not going to see a whole lot of hunters just pop up on the side of the road. And, you might start seeing that as years go by, and this, people take that mentality, but just always thinking that you got to go deep it's not the key to success. It's not. Does it help? Being, places that other hunters aren't. Well, yeah, that's kind of the whole point of what we're saying.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people like to boat into like small little islands or whatever you want to call it that nobody can access, and it's all about access really. But people overlook, what's going on right here by the truck. You just, you never know. So, seen a lot of mature bucks killed, close to highways, people hunting them and just, the old saying, you hunting too far from the road.
Yeah.
It really holds true.
It does.
To a lot of things. So we're not telling you that, you need to hunt 50 yards off of an interstate or a highway. That's not what we're telling you here. We're just telling you that don't overlook the small stuff. When you feel like that, you need to start and just go deep. Well, look right after you get out of the truck and kind of see what's going on around you. So,
yep.
And observe if there's anything, running across or like what y'all did, just, hey, there's a lot of deer here every time we come through. Let's just hunt it. And you did. And I, know for a fact, at least one of those bucks was a 140 class. And that's a big deer. That's a big deer.
Yeah, for us, it's a big deal for the vast majority of Americans. But I mean,
sure,
I've never gotten an opportunity at something like that. So
to just see it walking around like you did was, I'm sure, pretty cool to witness anyway. So
yep.
I think we got a little bit of footage of the chocolate horn when we may throw up. And let them see that, but there was no footage of the white horned when he was just out of frame. So, but anyway, yeah, I mean, I'm good. If you're good, Brandon, I think that's kind of a reflection on last year and kind of where we're heading.
Yep.
Not only with deer season, but also with the podcast. So when we come back, we'll still be in that mindset of deer hunting, deer season coming. So.
Yep.
When we come back, we'll have something that we're going to hit on that hopefully may be interesting or educational for you. So,
yeah.
Brian, if you got anything else?
Yeah, like you said a little bit earlier, it's always extremely nice when we get any kind of feedback. So if there's anything that you guys want to know, what we know, or if you want us to talk about something specifically, please let us know. Please let us know. It's a big deal for us.
Help.
So, and that's not just, mindset for deer hunting. That's self-filming, how we climb, how we hunt, any of the above, how we edit videos. It doesn't matter. We just want to talk deer, and get in the mindset with some like-minded people. So,
yeah.
But we appreciate you tuning in today. Thank you for giving us what little bit of time we took up, and like you said, tell us what you think. It'll go a long way for us. So,
TN4. We'll see you guys next time.
See ya.
And we'll probably make up like a little outro too, just to kind of wrap it up and reiterate harmonygamecalls.com type stuff, kind of like we do on